Our first blast of Arctic air of the season is on the way as we move over the next several days, along with the potential for snow and for areas pretty far south also for this time of the year. So here to get very detailed on this, the first thing we'll go over is the snow part. The second thing, which is what we're more confident in, is the Arctic air part. After that, we'll go over today's weather across the entire lower 48. We'll give you a forecast on that. Spend a little extra time on the Northeast where we're expecting some dicey weather. Strong system is going to move in and move out pretty fast, but with it, we're going to have a lot of strong winds, some storms, and even some snow behind it. So after that, we'll wrap up the video. If you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And if anybody has anything I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below. Let's get rocking and rolling this morning. So what you're looking at here is obviously a big blob of blue and green. You're probably thinking, well, what does this mean? Your mind probably immediately goes to snow. Well, the first thing I want you to really latch on to is cold air. And this trough, this thing you see on your screen, is going to bring a pretty potent shot of Arctic air. Now, I don't think it's going to last a super long time, probably just a couple days, but it is going to be very cold for first half of November standards, and there's going to be some energy associated with it, especially exactly where that Vort Max will be. And we'll explain more about the vortices, energy in the atmosphere as we move throughout this video. But there's a lot of energy associated with this dip in the jet. Are we going to get a huge winter storm out of this? I really don't think so. But we could get some accumulating snow for certain areas, favorite areas, and even some flakes pretty far south. So some festive flakes would be awesome for areas of the South, especially for early November. Now, I know not everybody is going to agree with that, but if you've been tuning in to my channel for any length of time, you guys know I'm a huge snow fan. So let's move past this and let's go over the snow part of this. And let's go over the latest Euro that we have. The morning Euro is running, but I don't think we have the entirety of the run, so we'll stick with the overnight Euro. We might flip back and forth a little bit as we go. So we're going to start us off with this coming Saturday, November the 8th. So the cold air has not moved in. We're going to see some green, which is rain, and you're going to see some blue, which is snow. And if you see any pink, that's kind of a wintry mix. So as we start to move into Sunday, you're going to see cold air is moving in, but I mean, it's even raining up here in like areas of the Northeast and I mean, even New England, the Ohio Valley. So cold air is not oozed in yet. 997 low shooting across Lake Erie, some snow in southern Ontario. It is catching up in areas of Michigan. So some snow could be flying around up here in the upper Midwest, the Great Lakes region, as we start to get into Sunday. Now, as we move forward and we start to get into Monday morning, this is when the cold air from this trough really starts to dive in out the north to the south. I mean, it digs deep also, starts to fire up these lake effect snow bands off all the Great Lakes, but especially, Lake Superior, Lake Michigan, and eventually into Lake Erie and all the other Great Lakes. Okay, but look at these flakes really embedded into the core of this trough, the energy associated with it. I mean, we're getting flakes of snow all the way down to Indiana, deep into Illinois, across Ohio, down into Kentucky, Tennessee, the Cumberland Plateau, and it's starting to snow in those favored northwest flow regions in areas of North Carolina, Tennessee, even Virginia and West Virginia, and even into the higher terrain of like southwest and southern areas of PA and western Maryland. Okay, but watch as we start to move into Monday afternoon. Guys, this is the afternoon hours of November the 10th, next Monday. Look at the blue showing up all the way down to northern Georgia. And do I believe this is going to happen? I wouldn't. Right now, if I had to say yes or no, I would say no, but it's definitely not out the possibility. But it's even showing some snow east of the mountains into the Carolinas. But, you see the blue over the mountains of Tennessee and North Carolina, Virginia, West Virginia, the hills of eastern Kentucky. Certainly believable. We've seen it before in November. It's not totally rare, I would say. It's definitely not common at all. But it definitely has never happened or anything like that. So, I mean, we got snow all the way into the mountains of northern Georgia, northeast Alabama, some hills in that area, some mountains. It's just wild stuff. And then you keep on going and we get into Tuesday morning and still some flakes flying around. Some of this is lake enhanced. And certainly, especially in Lake Erie, Lake Ontario, and then Lake Huron, this is definitely lake enhanced, lake effect snow. But you don't see a huge storm system, for example. Like here's a low pressure trying to deepen, but it's deepening far enough off the east coast to where it's not throwing a lot of precipitation back into this cold air. So pretty wild stuff. But I think the crazy thing out of this is the Euro, which is typically more of a conservative, more realistic and reliable model, for the last few model runs, guys, has been showing snow pretty far south. Now, is this going to be heavy accumulations all the way down to North Georgia? No, it's not. I really don't see that, but I wouldn't rule some light accumulations out. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and do it. So you stop it here. This is the afternoon hours of Monday. It's pretty wild stuff. And just a closer look at this from my friends here in the South, because I know I got a lot of people tuning in. I mean, look, this is Monday afternoon. A little bit of blue showing up in northern South Carolina. Guys, please don't tell everybody and their uncles, brothers, dogs, pet fish that it's going to snow in Raleigh Monday afternoon. That's not the way you should view this, but the pattern fits it. And we're going to explain some differences between the Euro and the GFS with this here in a second, but pretty wild stuff. Listen, there's been a few Novembers where we've seen snow, even some light accumulations in mid-November as far south as northern Alabama. And it hasn't been that long ago either. I'm trying to think of the year, but I feel like it just happened a few years ago. And it just happened last year in areas of eastern Tennessee. We had a pretty aggressive northwest flow snow event. So this is not unrealistic by any means. But it is still pretty wild and will get a lot of people excited, including me, even though I live here in Columbia, South Carolina. But I mean, look, there's some blue showing up along the Georgia-South Carolina border, well north of Augusta, but just pretty wild stuff. It really is. So, and it could really get cranking in West Virginia. But, you look at the GFS, because I don't want to just show you the model that shows the most snow, right? And it does not dig the energy associated with the trough far enough south. So this turns more into, and this is getting into Sunday, and this is getting into Monday, this turns more into a West Virginia points north kind of event. Still lake effect snow for the Great Lakes region, but it just doesn't dig this trough far enough south. Therefore, it's not as cold of a run, and it doesn't show any kind of flakes that far south. Now, you got models like, we'll compare that here in a second. Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. So this is what the Euro is showing, the operational run, which some people don't, say, hey, this is not responsible to look at, but I'm going to show it to you. This is between now and basically the entirety of this event that we're talking about. And this is what the Euro is showing as far as snowfall accumulations. Look at the UP. A few to several inches, depending on where you live. And if it's very aggressive, dropping north to south like this, you could have some north to south oriented kind of snow bands that go down Lake Michigan. And it wants to drop several inches of snow in northern Indiana, even some snow into Chicago. A little bit in Milwaukee, southern lower Michigan, several inches of snow. Look at the snow down to Ohio, Indiana. Now, if you're tuning in from this area and you love snow, don't get too worked up about this. I'm telling you, not I'm saying that you're worried or anything like that, but don't just completely buy into this. This is the Euro ensemble. But, I'll be honest, the Euro ensemble between now and the next week is pretty aggressive with accumulating snow in the UP of Michigan and portions of Wisconsin. And listen, it's even aggressive for Chicago, 1 to 2 inches of snow. You guys have, had several weak winters in a row. But even a few to several inches of snow showing up in northern Indiana and almost the entirety of Michigan, whether it's the UP or lower Michigan, showing accumulating snow, a little bit down to Ohio. And, I do want to show you the icon model, which goes aggressive with an all-out snowstorm. And this only goes out till about the middle of the night this coming Sunday. Goes all out with an aggressive snowstorm scenario in lower Michigan and shows some snow in northern Indiana. If we go back to the run overnight, man, it is definitely different. Definitely different. So the thing about the 06Z icon is it only goes out 120 hours. So it's only going to take us out to late Sunday night. Now, the southern apps, this is how much snow the Euro is spitting out. It wants to dump a little event for the mountains of North Carolina and Tennessee. A few inches of snow. It even shows a light dusting breaking containment east of the mountains, like in North Carolina. Now, I don't believe this right here, but you never know. The Cumberland Plateau, which is this kind of favorite area right here, and you got the Tennessee Valley, but the Cumberland Plateau, these events certainly have worked out in November. shows a little bit of snow. If you're not familiar with Alabama's terrain and you're not familiar with the South at all, there are mountains in Alabama. Pretty far south, too. In fact, you think Birmingham, you're probably not thinking mountains, but there's some hills in Birmingham. I remember when I storm chased for the first time out there, and it blew my mind when I pulled up in Birmingham, and there's like mountains in Birmingham, Talladega. I'm just like, what is going on? But especially northeast Alabama. So, northern Georgia shows some accumulations. Look at West Virginia, a few to several inches. So Kentucky, so pretty wild stuff. Now, if you do look at the more conservative blend of all models, which is probably the responsible thing to look at, not near as aggressive, but I think honestly it's probably a better thing to look at, not the best thing, but and then you look at, say, the Euro AI model, and I forgot, it can't zoom in that close, but does show snow for the mountains and a little bit in the Cumberland Plateau. So, but moving up to the northeast, some of this is in Vermont, New Hampshire. It's combining what's going to happen over the next 36 hours, but it does show some accumulating snow in the Tug Hill and the Adirondacks and south of Buffalo, that favorite area right here between Erie and Buffalo. A few inches of snow showing up all the way. You've got Allegheny Mountains, western Maryland, West Virginia, and show some splotchy areas, even breaking east of the Alps. So, I will sit here and say this, let's take a broad look. And this is the Euro, right? Very aggressive. And then you look at the GFS, not near as aggressive as a whole, but certainly likes more snow in these areas up north. So, normally it's the other way around. Normally it's the GFS going crazy. But I will say, let's go back, and we're just going to take a broad look at this so we don't, re-go over all this information again. Let's look at what the latest Euro is showing. And, still shows snow. Still aggressive with this trough, and still shows some snowflakes all the way down into the southern Alps. Even the Cumberland Plateau, some snowflakes showing up. And northern Georgia, even some rain and snow mix maybe in the Carolinas as this Vort Max swings through. So, it's still showing up. And, just to look at how much accumulation it shows off this run, and it's not a whole lot different, not quite as aggressive for, say, the Cumberland Plateau, not near as aggressive, but shows some splotchy areas east of the Alps, and it just shows a solid look, early season look, which is right on cue, honestly. We normally see some of our first light accumulations in mid-November for the mountains of North Carolina, Tennessee. And I tell you, if this was falling on the weekend, I would probably take me and my family up into the mountains, but it's happening on a Monday, really, and that's just a lame day, right? So what we're watching for is, how far south does this Vort Max, this area of colors right here, this deeper, stronger energy, how far south does it dig? On the overnight Euro, it digs far. This is the trough itself. This is the energy associated with it. This is what really squeezes out some flakes, some festive flakes pretty far south. So that digs, right? Now you compare this with the GFS. It has the main kind of energetic area of energy, the main stronger energy way up here. Does not dig it as far south as at all. So a little bit of energy swings to the south, but that's not really concentrated at all. So I'll tell you, the one thing that we're more confident in, and one would argue I probably should show this first, and I did that in yesterday morning's video, but, excited about the snow and potential for certain areas. But we're going to start this off for, once again, Saturday evening. The blues and the greens are below average temperatures. And then this is going to take over the kind of oranges and the reds down here, which is above average temperatures. And watch as we start moving to Sunday, big plume of below average temperatures, drops down to the low of 48, central U.S. first, and it takes over the south, southeast, and the eastern U.S. And you see these colors right in here, folks. This is well below average temperatures. Let's just go on and take a closer look at this. I knew it was going to do that. And let's look at this, that. And look at these below average temperatures oozing in. This is going to be one heck of a cold front that moves in Sunday into Monday for these areas. It's going to be one of those cold fronts that you're probably going to feel, which is definitely rare for the eastern U.S. You get that more in the middle of the country, but this is going to be a sharp cold front. Like, these are temperatures compared to average for Monday afternoon. We're talking 20, 25 degrees below average. Not below zero, below average. So if your average high is like 65, your highs might be in the 40s, which is below average for areas of the South in January. So really cold temperatures, and this only lasts for a few days, and then temperatures begin to moderate by the end of next week. But how cold could these temperatures potentially get? These are forecast high temperatures starting off Thursday, tomorrow. Very warm all the way up into South Dakota, and then the cold air begins to ooze in. This is Friday. Look at the temperature boundary right in here. Sub-freezing high temperatures up here in North Dakota, Minnesota. This is Saturday. Sub 30-degree temperatures for highs up in North Dakota, northern Minnesota. And then we start to get into Sunday and just a very cold day up here. Nothing crazy that you guys certainly can't handle, but it's certainly cold compared for first half of November standards. And then the entire air mass shifts to the east, and it warms right back up. So that's the good news with this. And, looking at low temperatures, we'll back this up. These are potential low temperature forecast, low temperature actually, as we're getting to Friday morning. And then this is Saturday morning. We got temperatures in the teens. Can somebody get, below zero? Below like 10 degrees. I don't think we're going to get below zero. But, look, 12, 11 degrees up here in North Dakota. It's pretty cold for early November standards. And then, look, these are Monday morning low temperatures. A good chunk of the central U.S. gets below freezing. But, this is definitely a shot of very cold Arctic air for this time of the year. And then this air mass begins to shift away, and then we're done. But looking at the eastern U.S., these are high temperatures tomorrow, just cold in the northeast. And look how much we start to warm up across the deep south, the southeast, mid-Atlantic. And then we start getting to Saturday. Look at these chilly temperatures. These are high temperatures starting to ooze in. This is Sunday. Big temperature boundary for Sunday. It's going to be wild looking at a temperature map for Sunday for sure. 70s and 80s kind of east of the Alps. Almost 70s all the way up into Washington, D.C. Deep into the 80s now in the Florida. And then here comes that air mass, and then boom, it moves through. So, for example, like where I live in Columbia, it can hit 80 degrees Sunday, and then we're not going to get out the 50s for Monday. It's going to be a sharp cold front. And, get ready. These are high temperatures for northern Alabama, Tennessee. Only in the mid, in some cases, low 40s. That's cold for January. Okay, and then this is Tuesday. Moderates a little bit, but still cold across the eastern U.S. And then, once again, we'll go back and look at potential low temperatures. Get ready. Your first widespread freeze is on the way. This is Sunday low temperatures. This is Monday low temperatures. Look, sub-freezing temperatures across the mid and areas of the deep south. Well below freezing temperatures across the Midwest, Ohio Valley, and then bang, Tuesday morning, first widespread freeze for areas that have not seen a freeze across the eastern U.S. Could get all the way into the freezing mark, all the way to the Gulf Coast, depending on where you live along the Gulf Coast. So definitely a chilly air mass, and this is backed up by the Climate Prediction Center. I'm going with below average temperatures, a high chance at it too, across the eastern U.S. And, also just to show you this, just to kind of double down on this, moderate risk at hazardous below average temperatures for the southeast. So it's on the way, guys. And I also want to mention with this system moving in ahead of it, it's going to pull up some rich, moist air out the Gulf, and we actually have a risk of severe weather, and this is for Friday. So a marginal risk extends all the way up in Ohio, all the way down to Alabama. So yes, I think there's a high chance that we could get some strong to severe storms for certain areas Friday, and then by the end of the weekend, we could have snow flying around. So severe storms and then snow in a 48-hour period is very likely. So for someone. And then here's a zoomed in look at the more favored area for severe weather. The yellow is a slight risk, level 2 out of 5. And Nashville, you're right in the middle of it. So we're going to have to watch this for Friday. Some strong to severe storms are likely. And I imagine damaging winds will be the biggest threat. Now, as far as today's weather, we got a system flying through areas of basically Ontario, areas of Quebec. It's moving out of kind of the northern Great Lakes region, about to blast through the northeast, and the low pressure will deepen with this. It's going to bring some wild weather across the northeast today. And then we got a strong system moving into the west coast. So we're watching that also. The rest of the country's quiet. As far as watches, warnings, and advisories, wind will be the big story over the next 24 hours. The west coast, a lot of winds from a strong storm system. We got high wind watches high wind warnings and wind advisories, high wind watches up in northern Montana. And we got wind advisories in this tan color, high wind warnings, high wind watches littered across southern New England and areas of New England. Long Island, it's going to definitely be a very windy day, and we're going to get more detailed on that here in a second. The risk of severe weather, we actually have a marginal risk over here across areas of the West Coast, and then this marginal area right here, level 1 out of 5 across areas of the Northeast, upper mid-Atlantic. But this marginal risk over here, Eugene, Salem, Medford, Eureka, there's actually a 2% risk of a tornado right here. But if you look into this area, we could definitely have some nasty storms moving through this area pretty fast today. No outbreak or anything like that, but we'll talk more on that here in a second. Southeast, a quiet day of weather. You'll be south of that storm system to the north today. So really absolutely nothing to speak on today weather-wise. Northeast, here comes our storm system. Watch how this number right here, which is, like we talked about with the tropics, it begins to drop, which means we have a deepening low pressure right over land, and this thing will deepen. This will really, it gets pretty strong, and this will kick up some thunderstorms across areas of central and southern tier of New York, northern PA. So you see these areas in yellow, orange, and red. These are strong to potentially severe thunderstorms. But on the northern side of this lobe, it's cold enough to fall in the form of some heavy, wet snow this evening. And this entire system swings through and brings a period of strong winds for everybody. Some scattered power outages are possible to likely. And then it moves on out and probably brings some, moderate to significant impacts to Atlantic Canada. And then some cold, chilly air moves in behind it. Now, this is potential wind speeds for areas of New England. This is projected wind gust, a max wind gust from the National Weather Service. Manchester going for a 54 mile per hour wind gust. Okay. And then talking about snow. You guys up here will be kind of on the cooler side of this. But look at the heavy snow. The areas in purple right there, guys. That's the potential for over a half a foot of snow in the higher elevated favored regions. And then let's go on and switch it back to gust, and let's bump it over to New York. Look how strong these winds could potentially be for New York and surrounding states today. Very strong winds. Pause the screen if you need to really get a figure on how strong your winds could be. These are potential max wind gusts. And there's the Adirondacks getting a little bit of accumulating snow. A few inches of snow. Higher peaks could get over a half a foot. And then we'll switch it back to max wind gust, and let's look into southern New England. Man, definitely a dicey evening, especially, and really the stronger wind gusts moving, after lunchtime today. But strong winds, big time wind event moving in. Some model guidance has backed off a little bit with this, but still looking dicey. And then we look at PA, some strong wind gusts here. Philadelphia, 47 mile per hour wind gusts, and like I said, if I'm going through this too fast, you guys just pause it. And even some strong winds all the way down to the DC corridor. So go on and prepare for this. Pull any loose stuff back in or secure it, whatever you need to do. But the South Central U.S., a quiet day of weather. Once again, nothing to speak on. Hope you're doing well, Mary, in Northeast Texas. But North Central U.S., this system's going to swing out. And, could in the eastern UP of Michigan get some rain, snow showers. Definitely possible, but nothing to write home about at all or anything like that. Big storm system moving into the west. Some of these bands coming out off the Pacific inland could produce a quick spin up. All right, so, not a lot of cold air associated with this storm system. This system's moving well to the north. And it's just been a slow start to winter out here. So this is going to be a much warmer system. Therefore, we got enough thermodynamics for a tornado threat for areas of the western sections of Washington, especially Oregon and northwest California. The eastern U.S.'s temperature is pretty, for the most part, it's above average for most. So it's definitely warming up across the deep south, a warm day after a cold start. And the western U.S., it's certainly above average temperature wise. So, hey, that's all I got. Thank y'all for tuning in. God bless all y'all, and appreciate y'all so much. And hey, listen, I haven't forgot about giving you guys my thoughts on December. I was reading through the comments a couple days ago when I mentioned that in the video a couple days ago, and I got a lot of feedback. It's pretty obvious people want me to do some type of seasonal forecast, and I know I preached many times that I'm against it. But I don't see a problem with talking about my thoughts on the weather maybe a month in advance, and not necessarily creating a forecast, but giving you guys my thoughts. And honestly, this really isn't even a month in advance, but I'll be honest with you, I'm not as good with talking about things that are a bit of a risk, if that makes sense. Like, the flow is going to be questionable in those videos. So I'm trying to take time to really put some things together, speak on things, but at the same time not get too crazy into the details. And that's hard. It's very tough. So I got it on my to-do list, on my little checklist. I'm gonna try to put some things together and maybe just give you guys my opinions on sort of early December. And a lot of people are pointing to that time frame. A lot of people are just pointing to a front-loaded winter, which screams December, right? And listen, if I had to pick one month out of the 3 main months of winter, December, January, and February, to get a snowstorm, winter storm, it would be December 100% of the time, every time. My dream scenario is getting a winter storm in the days or weeks leading up to Christmas. I think my childhood dream, kind of the kid in me, will always desire that in my own hometown, my own neck of the woods, if you will. So we're going to speak on some things. I know a lot of people have already made videos, and I know those videos really get out there. I mean, they get viewed a ton. People eat that stuff up. So my challenge to myself is to make those videos, but to not do it just to get all those views. I really want to give you guys a real and honest opinion on my thoughts on it. So I'll try to get something together over the next several days. Don't want to promise a day or anything on that, but I really want to do it. It's just I got to put things together to do it. So that's all I got. God bless all y'all. Have a wonderful day, and we'll talk again tomorrow morning.